Hi everybody, I'm Mrs. World of Wayne and this is my crafting world, and today we thought we'd bring you something a little bit different. So over the last few weeks I have been making some beaded baubles. Beaded baubles, I hear you ask, what are they? Well, I will show you. You know what Mr. World of Wayne is like for being a little Christmas elf, so I decided to make some of these baubles. And what we decided then to do was to actually create a tutorial for you to follow. So join me on this little journey where I will show you how to make one of these beautiful baubles. So this is the bauble that we're going to try and recreate. This is a 6 centimetre bauble and I'm using size 11 seed beads, and today we're actually going to be using 4mm bicone. It's a lovely little bead that will hang beautifully. So as we create our beaded bauble, you'll be able to see how that looks. So I'm just going to move this one to one side and we'll get going. When you come to create these baubles, it's all about the counting. They look far more complicated than they actually are, but once you get yourself into a rhythm, it's quite simple and quite therapeutic actually. Now we do use a beading needle like this one here. Now I've got my trusty one, which as you can see is all bent up now, but this is the one I'm going to use. And with these beading needles, it's really good because there's not actually a tiny eye. It's actually split in two throughout the middle part, as you can see here, for us to put the beading thread through. The thread that I'm using is this 6-pound Fireline thread, which is really good because it's really flexible, but it's also strong and quite malleable as you're working through your design. So that's what I recommend. And what we'll do is in the description box, we'll put everything that I actually use. Now, when it comes to the quality of the seed beads, this really does vary and it depends on the make and where you get them from. If you're buying them in bulk, what you will find is that the size of each individual seed bead can really vary. And that will make a huge difference to how your bauble looks. At the end, it will look quite uneven. However, saying that, if you're just starting out and you just want to have a go, then just buy some cheap size 11 seed beads and they'll be absolutely fine. If later on you think, actually, I really like these and I want to make some as gifts or even make them to sell them, then I would definitely recommend spending that little bit more money on actually buying usually check seed beads. They're really good, glass, and so the more you spend on them, the more even the seed beads are going to actually look in size. One bead usually probably takes about 5 grams of seed beads. It's really strange because you buy them by weight, not by number. So I buy mine from a company called Spellbound Bead Company, and again we'll put the details in the description even. And these I believe are 10-gram pots, and they do come completely full. I'll show you one that I haven't used, so they will come full and you will have lots left over. So usually probably get 2 baubles out of one pot of these. With the bicones, you need roughly 55 of them for one of these small baubles. All right, for this particular design. Now, once you've created this design, you can then create lots of different designs. And if you have a look on YouTube, you will see that there are many designs out there, all different designs and difficulties. All right, so it's having a look for something that, you know, you think, do you know what, I can move on to that, I can do that. With the bauble that we're making, if I show you this, it isn't sealed at the bottom. So if this bauble were to break, because it is a glass bauble, then actually I can just remove the beaded cap from it and place that over another bauble. If if I decided that actually I don't want green baubles anymore, but I still like that bead cover, then I can take that bauble out and put it over another. You will see some designs online and on places like Etsy where the bauble cover comes completely sealed underneath. So in the design, as you're making it, this will all come further down until such a time as you've completely encased the bauble. They look absolutely beautiful. However, you just need to remember that if you do have an accident and the bauble does break, then the bead cover is of no use to you, because you can't undo it. As soon as you cut it, you're going to have 1,000 beads all over the floor. So anyway, let's get going. So I've already cut myself quite a length of beading line. Now these do take quite a lot of beading line to actually do, and I've probably got about 1.5 meters here. That's probably a good length to start off with. It doesn't tangle very easily, so it's not like normal sewing thread, which you know what it's like. You're trying to sew something and it knots. This doesn't. So that's, having a long length shouldn't make any difference. But what I will do is, the chances are I'm going to need more thread as I go along. So I will show you how to change over to a new thread, because it's not as simple as sewing cotton where we just knot it. All right, we have to ensure that it's not going to come undone. So let me begin. So first of all, I'm just going to thread my needle. I just put it through middle there. You don't need any sort of needle threader because the hole is so big, and just pull it through as you would. All right, so you've just got a little tail there. Now some people on the end of their thread will put what they call a fastener bead, and that's just to stop all the beads rushing off the bottom if you were to accidentally pick it up and they all go flooding off. I don't bother with that, but obviously that is completely up to you. I'm using a beading mat here. This is a proper beading mat. However, you probably find that a piece of felt would work just as well. And what this does is it stops the beads from rolling everywhere, and it makes them easier to pick up. Okay, so for a bauble of this size, we are going to start off by picking up 44 seed beads. Okay, and that is going to make the top of it. So let's get going. I'm not gonna count. I like to count in my head.
A few moments later.
So there you have it, a string of 44 beads, and this is going to make the top. So I'm going to move very carefully. I'm going to move all of the beads towards the end of my bead wire. Now I still want to make sure that I've got quite a good tail on the end here. All right, because we will be weaving this back through the beads afterwards. So make sure there's probably about 10 centimeters worth of tail on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a normal double knot. Now as you're doing this, you want to make sure that your beads don't become entangled. You want a complete circle. Those two have escaped. Let me just push them back where I need them to be. That's right. Now this beading wire, like cotton, is difficult to undo the knot once it's there. So do make sure before you tighten it that you've actually got it into the position that you want. So I just need to move that little bead back there. Keep them down. And I just want to tighten this. Okay, and there you have it. And that's the bit that sits over top of the bauble. Now, if you were to use larger seed beads, now strangely enough with seed beads, the smaller the number, the larger the number, the smaller the bead. So after 11s, the most common is an 8, and they are slightly bigger. Okay, so you can actually see that there's quite a size difference in the size 8 to the size 11s that I'm using. Now, depending on the size of the cap on your bauble will depend how snug a fit you've got. With this one, the cap is quite large. On this bauble, it's slightly smaller, so there is a gap. But 44 is a good number, and the reason for that is you need all of this when it comes off to be equal. So you actually have 11 drops coming off every 4 beads. So if you want to adjust the number at the top, you are going to have to do a little bit of maths, all right, to work out, is that design actually then going to work? But we're going to stick with our 44. So my knot is just here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with my needle, I'm going to thread it through a number of the beads. And what this does is this will just secure the thread and ensure that the knot isn't going to just come undone. Now, these beading needles are quite blunt, so you're unlikely to stab your finger. Okay, I'm just going to go through a few more. Now, obviously, you need to go through consecutive beads. You can't leave a gap because otherwise you're going to see your beading thread. This fire line that I use does come in different colours. You can get, I think there is a smoky grey and a black. And then if you just buy normal beading thread, you can get that in a multitude of colours. And they usually come on small spools, a bit like what you'd use in a sewing machine, on little bobbins. So I'm just going to go through a few more. And what this also does is just gives a little bit of rigidity to the top of your bead cap. Just pull it through. Just going to go through a few more, and then that will take me back to where my original knot was. Now when I get to my original knot, I'm not going to come up there. So my original knot is just here, but I'm going to go past that again just by one bead. So I've now threaded all the way around. I'm going to go through the next couple, just 2, and then I'm going to start working my way down the bauble. Now what you can do if you want is unthread the main thread and get rid of this tail. I always leave that till the end, all right, because that way then I know that that's where the knot is, and I try not to come up there again, all right, because I don't want to cause any pressure on the knot that's there. So what we're going to do is we are going to pick up 1 bicone like so, and then 9 seed beads, and that's our pattern. 1 bicone, 9 seed beads. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And that's going to look like that. And we repeat that until we have 5 bicones. Now we need an odd number. If your bauble is bigger, then you can go on to 7 bicones. Okay, but for a 6 centimetre bauble, 5 is ideal. Okay, so I've got 1 bicone, 9 seed beads, 1 bicone, 9 seed beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You might just want to just double check that you've got 9 on there. I'm more of an evens number type person, so sometimes I do find myself wanting to put 10 on there. Okay, so I've now got 2 bicones, so I'm going to go for a third and 9 seed beads. 1 bicon, 9 seed beads. So I now have 1, 2, 3, 4 bicones. So this is going to be my 5th. So I now have a string that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to add 3 seed beads, like so. And then I'm going to take my beading needle. I'm going to miss the 3 that I've just threaded, 3 seed beads that I've just threaded. And I'm going to take it back up through the last bicon, and only the bicon. And what that does is it secures that row of beads. So it looks like this. Now what we're going to do is we're now going to work our way back up to the top. So from here, I'm going to take, so I've already got my bicon, it's already attached. So I'm now going to take 9 seed beads. And there's number 9. And I'm going to pick up a bicon. And then I'm going to pick up another 9 seed beads. Now, if I show you the one that I've already made, when we come up from the bottom and we do our second row, we then begin to join it onto the bicons that are already there. So we have a double bicon, then we have a single, then we go to a double. And gradually, as the design is complete, they will all become double bicons. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So at the moment, all of these bicons, except for the bottom one, are single. They have nothing else coming from them apart from their 9 seed beads. With the one at the bottom, because we've come back through it to thread our new layer or our next line of beads, it becomes a double bicon. So from a double, I then need a single. Now this is now going to become a double bicon. And to do that, I'm going to attach it across here to this bicon here. Okay, so what I need to do is I've come up here and I'm now going to thread through that bicon. And when I pull the thread through, you'll see what I mean by, or hopefully you'll see what I mean by it now becoming a double bicon. Okay. So I've got a single, a double, 2 singles and a double. So now we've gone through that double, we're now going to pick up 9 seed beads. Okay. So I've got my 9 seed beads. Now I don't want to go through this one, so I'm going to pick up a new bicon and then pick up 9 seed beads. It is always worthwhile just double checking that you've got the right amount of seed beads on there, because it is really easy to pick up 2 at a time. And they have to be an equal number, otherwise the design isn't going to work. So now we've got to the top and we find that we're right back to where we started. So now what we're going to do is we are going to thread it through the bottom of our bicon that's at the top of our bead cap. So let's bring it all through here. And it looks like this. So now what we're going to do is where we've come up, we are now going to thread through 4 seed beads along the top. So this is where our thread has come up. and we're now going to count 4 seed beads along the top. We're going to thread through those and then come out after the 4th one. Okay, like so. Now I'm going to pull my thread through. And as we pull, we tighten the threads on these beads as well. Don't worry if they become loose. As you go round, it will tighten. And now we're going to start again with our bicone and our 9 beads. So 1 bicone, and we want 9 seed beads. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to do exactly the same that we did for the very first row. So now we've got our 9, so we've got our bicone and our 9 seed beads. Now we want to make this single bicone here a double. So we're going to thread our needle through the bicone, and only the bicone. We don't want it to go through any of the seed beads. Pull it down to tighten it. And you can begin to see the pattern forming. Now we're going to collect another 9 seed beads, but because we've already got a double bicone here, we are going to add a new one on one of our bicones. And then we want another 9 seed beads. So this has taken us down to here, and here we have a single bicone. So we're now going to thread through that bicone. And remember, we're not going through any additional seed beads, it's purely just the bicone. And we've now attached those. And gradually you will start to see the net coming together. So now we want another 9 bicones. Sorry, I apologise, another 9 seed beads. And now we've got to the bottom. Now we've got a double bicone here, so it means we need to pick one up. And just like before, we're going to now pick up 3 seed beads. Oops. 1, 2, 3. Thread them to the bottom and then come up through our bicone. Like so. And then we can just tighten them. And at the bottom, the 3 little seed beads you've got, just make a nice little shape. You could do it with just 1, but I do like the shape that 3 give you. And now we're going to work our way back up. Okay, so we want another 9 seed beads. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you another length, and then we're going to speed this video up. If I need to add on more thread, I will show you that process as well. I'm sure I will, because you do use quite a lot of thread during this, the backwards and forwards. Now, because I have a double bicone here, I need to pick a new one up so that I've got a single. And another 9 seed beads. Because I have a single bicone here, I'm going to thread up through the bicone and then get another 9 seed beads. I have a double bicone there, so I need to pick up a single. Just going to move these over. And then that takes me back up to the top. So I'm now going to thread through this bicone at the top. And then I'm going to take it through 4 seed beads. Okay, so it's 4 seed beads from where I started. So I'm going through this one. I apologise if my fingers are in the way. I'm just trying to hook the seed bead that I need. There it is. Out I come. And I'll work my way down again. So I'm now going to get on and do those, and I'll catch up with you soon. Okay, so I've got to this bit and I've actually got very little thread left on my needle. So what I'm going to do is I don't have enough to take it back down and back up to the top. So I'm going to cast this off here and then begin with a new piece of thread. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to run this needle back through the beads. So not forward as though I was starting a new drop. I'm actually going to run them back. So I've brought it up through that top bicone as I normally would, and now I'm going to thread it back through a number of the seed beads. It doesn't really matter how many. So I've brought my thread up here. I don't want to bring it up where there is a bicone. I want to make sure that it's brought up at a seed bead before that. I've hooped the needle under so that there is a loop, and now I'm going to thread my needle through that loop. And what I want to make sure is that as it tightens in exactly the same place that I brought the thread up through the seed bead. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I mean. So it needs a little manipulation with your fingers just to get that into the right place. And once it is in the right place, I can pull it tight. Okay. And then I'm going to thread through another seed bead until I get to a bicone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm now going to run my needle through the bicone and then through a number of seed beads and the next bicone. And then I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm going to get my scissors, and this is where I'm going to cut. Now obviously when you cut, do be really, really careful that you're not cutting any of the thread where the seed beads or the bicones are. Let me just show you. Okay. So we can't see any loose threads, and that is nice and secure. Now this is obviously my tail from when I started, and I still want to leave that where it is. I don't finish that off until the end, like I said. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to now get some more thread, and I'll show you how we start. Probably going to use another 1.5 meters of thread. Thread it back through my needle, Now what I want to do is I want to begin somewhere here, doesn't matter where, but again I'm going through seed beads, not where the bicones are. And I'm going to go through a couple of seed beads. Again, you don't want to come, I'm going through 2 because of where I've started. You don't want to come up where there's a bicone. So I'm going to pull my thread until I have a tail. And then exactly what I did when I was finishing up, I'm going to put my needle through the middle, then through the loop in the thread. I'm going to pull it tight so that it's in exactly the place where I brought my needle up, and pull it nice and tight. And then I'm going to go back in with my needle through the seed beads. I'm going to come up at the bicone that I finished with when I cast off the thread. So that's now secure there. Then I'm going to count, so this is my bicone, I'm going to count 4 seed beads, 2, 3, 4, and I can start again. Some people like to do a couple of knots throughout, some people like to thread again all around the top part, the halo part. That's completely up to you. The way I see it is, these aren't jewellery, it's not going to be worn, it is going to be on a static decoration that is either going to be an ornament within the house or on your Christmas tree. So as long as you're happy and that thread is secure, that should be good enough. If I was making a bracelet and I was using this method, then obviously I would knot it a few times further around so that it was secure and there wasn't any chance of it breaking. But I'm quite happy with how it is. So I now have 2 ends. I have my original end and I have the end I've just made. Again, I'm going to leave those there till the end, and then what I'll do at the end is I will thread those through so that you can't see them, and then sort of chop them down at a smaller point. What I don't want to be doing is cutting anything where the knot is, all right, because the chances are that will then come undone. All right, so I'll carry on with the beading. Okay, so we've now got to our last section, and as you can see, it's gradually all tightening and coming together. So now what we need to do is complete the last section that is going to tie all of this together to give us our beaded cape. So I've come up from this bicone here through 4 seed beads, and I've got my final blue bicone there. So I'm going to pick up 9 seed beads And then I'm going to go through my single bicon here. Now this is where it will start to look as though it's tangling a little bit, and that's just because it's all being pulled together. So you just need to make sure that actually you are pulling the thread tight enough to hold all of it. So now I'm picking up, so I've gone through this bicon, so now I'm going to pick up another 9 seed beads. Okay, and then I've already got a double bicon, so I'm going to put my single bicon on and another 9 seed beads. And then I've got a single bicon here, so I'm going to thread through that one. And I've got another 9 seed beads, which take me to the bottom. When I'm making these indoors, I'm one of these people that when I'm counting, sort of puts my hand up to stop people from talking to me. When I was little, my mum, she's an avid knitter and crocheter, and she would be counting something in her head, and we'd come in and we'd start talking to her, and then she'd start to count loudly so that we knew to be quiet. So remember, the counting throughout this is important. So now we've got to the end of this one. We are now, as we travel back up, we're going to join to this side here. So we're now not going to add any more bicones. We've completely finished with those. So it's just going to be seed bead and then to the bicon that we've already got attached. I'm just going to make sure that this is tight enough. So here we go on the homeward stretch. So 9 seed beads. Now this side, let me just bring this into view. This side we've already got a double, but if we look onto that side, it's a single. So we're going to bring it up from the bottom through there. And then what will happen is this will now start to join together. Now some people at this point do find it easier to place it onto the bauble and complete it that way. I don't. I prefer to have it still sitting on the mat. That's personal preference. But now we're up through here, we're going to take another 9 seed beads. And from here, on this side, I've got a double bicon. So I'm going to go onto the other side where there's a single and thread through there. It's now completely joined at the bottom. So I need another 9 seed beads. And if I look, I've got a double bicon here. So I need to be going over to the other side to this single bicon. Up through the bottom. Need another 9 seed beads. And now this bit here comes back up to the top. So we've got our single bicon at the top. So we are now going to thread that through. And this now completely joins it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this on the bauble. Now it's not tightened off yet. All right, but I'm going to place it on my bauble to show you how it is all joined up. Squeeze this, as you can see, but all the way around they are all completely looped together. So I'm going to take it back off and just show you now how to finish off. So keeping the thread nice and taut, I'm going to run it through. So it's come up through the bicon here. So where these seed beads are above, I'm going to run my needle through them. Now this 6 pound fire line beading wire is strong enough to successfully make one of these baubles, but it's also thin enough that you can get a couple of loops around through the seed beads without too much problems. When you are sort of finishing up and securing thread, you can run it through those seed beads. I'm going to run it through a few more. My needle is struggling a little bit because it's so bent where I use it. It came when I bought this, a nice straight needle. Now it's all crooked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, so I'm going to knot it here. So again, here is my thread. I'm going to put my needle under and through the centre of the halo. I'm going to pull it until there's a small loop. And I'm going to place my needle back through the loop. And then pull it tight. So that's a knot. I think I saw that they're called surgeon's knots. I don't know if that's true. I may have made that up. I apologise if I've got that one wrong. But yeah, a looped knot. I'm sure someone called it a surgeon's knot. So I'm going to just secure it a bit more. I'm going to do, so I'm threading it through some more seed beads. Now I've brought it up here at this bicone, and now I'm going to thread down through the bicone, through the seed beads, through the next bicone, and through the next lot of seed beads. I'm now going to unthread that piece of thread, and now I'm going to go back to my ends that I had. And in the same way, I'm just going to thread those back through. Just so that I can keep it nice and secure. So this one I'm just going to thread down through the bicone, through the seed beads, like so, because you don't want them coming untangled. So pull that one off. I can get rid of that end. Then I've got one more end to do. This is only a small end. Usually I like to leave longer ends. It's always good when you've got your ends to try and run them down these bits as well, because then you know you're not unravelling what you've already looped inside. I hope that makes sense. It looks absolutely beautiful. These particular seed beads are called light violet ABs. The ABs are the ones that I think look a bit iridescent. I'm not quite sure what AB stands for, but if ever you buy an AB bead, then it's going to be one that's slightly iridescent. So I've showed it to you on a navy bauble, but I'm going to show it to you. This is a pale pink. So on this one, the blues really, really stand out. So it's completely up to you what colour bauble you use underneath. But they really do look beautiful. And I hope you found that tutorial. It's not simple, but it is quite therapeutic once you get into the swing of it. Now these take me roughly 2 to 2.5 hours to make if I go start to finish. Now when I first made one, I think it was probably closer to 3 hours. So guys, there you have it, and here is our completed bauble. Now if you like that video, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up so that we can bring you more content like this. Thanks everyone, bye.